Zaccharie Risacher is one of the most familiar names to those who follow the path of European prospects with the highest potential. Currently occupying one of the top 6 positions in the mock drafts of the 2024 draft to be held in June, the young Frenchman is aimed to be selected at least in the first half of the lottery. His size and versatility have made him one of the best and most valuable prospects in his class, and scouts say his game will translate well to the NBA. But there seems to be a problem.
Breakaway slam dunk for Risacher, streaking down the floor, the 18-year-old.
There have already been many rumors that this draft class is one of the worst in recent years, and there is no doubt that these rumors have reached franchise executives. However, if the draft class lacks the talent or depth of recent classes, there will still be players who stand out and can make an impact in the NBA almost immediately. Zaccharie aspires to be one of them, but does his profile offer enough virtues to invest such a high pick? Or in other words, is it worth it for an NBA team to invest a whole season tanking to select him? Well, let's talk about it. The explosion of Victor Wembanyama during the last season has put France back on the world basketball map. All the hype surrounding the Spurs center caused the NBA to offer his games at the Metropolitan's 92 as part of the League Pass menu. And well, with Wemby's arrival in the NBA, the center has proven that his performance in one of Europe's best basketball leagues has translated faithfully to the NBA.
Made a nice spin move, able to control it with one hand. You knew he was going to shoot this one, bringing it up the court. He's feeling it now.
Interestingly, it's very likely that the number 1 pick in the upcoming 2024 draft will also be French. We may not be talking about Zaccharie Risacher, but Alexander Sarr, the center who's currently playing for the Perth Wildcats of the NBL, is 7'1" with great mobility and a skill set with a lot of potential. However, a few positions down in the mocks is Risacher. Despite being only 18 years old, Zaccharie has been part of the rotation of one of the best teams in the French league, the Bourg-en-Bresse, which for the 3rd consecutive time has played in the Euro Cup. These continental competitions provide a huge opportunity for young players to gain experience and improve by playing minutes at the elite European level before reaching the NBA. Of course, the Euro Cup doesn't have many similarities with the NBA in terms of style of play, but succeeding in continental competitions at a young age usually means that players are ready to face bigger challenges. Just look at what Luka Doncic was able to do at Real Madrid.
The young man taking pain to the hoop and going up.
However, the season hasn't been easy for Risacher. During the first months of competition, Zaccharie suffered an important slump in his process to professional basketball. His shots weren't going in, and his offensive production wasn't good enough to be considered as one of the best prospects in the draft. During his first 8 games in the BetClick Elite this season, he only made 5 of 30 three-point shots he attempted, or 16%. However, during the last few months, he made 27 of his 56 three-pointers in the domestic league, or 48%. If we look at his averages in the Euro Cup, however, his performance has been much more impressive. Not only has he been able to make 50% of his shots from the field, but he's also made 45% of his three-pointers. In other words, his best scoring performances have come against supposedly tougher competition. In fact, he only averaged 9.5 points per game during the BetClick Elite regular season, being Bourg-en-Bresse's 4th leading scorer, but his scoring increased to 11.3 points per night in Euro Cup as the team's 2nd leading scorer, and to 13 points per game in the 2 playoff games he played.
Roland takes it to the hoop, and Zaccharie Risacher.
Zaccharie Risacher.
This quick adjustment of his game to elite European basketball has allowed him to climb positions in the mock drafts, being considered by some agencies as the best player of the entire draft. No, that's not an exaggeration. The mocks from CBS Sports, AP News, and Bleacher Nation have the forward as the number 2 pick in the draft, while Yahoo Sports has him as the number 1 overall pick. However, Zaccharie is generally considered a defensive prospect, which is not usually a player profile that teams invest in high in the draft. So what makes him so special? How do you define the playstyle of a kid who doesn't have many comparisons in the history of the league? Well, if one thing is clear, it's that Risacher should have no trouble adapting to the physical game of the NBA. Although what's most striking when watching him play is not his athleticism, it's without a doubt his understanding and feel for the game. Zaccharie is a player that you won't see many lapses in concentration, and you won't see him in bad positions on many occasions. His basketball IQ allows him to distinguish himself from other other prospects who may have a relatively similar technical skill set, something that's largely influenced by the presence of his father, Stéphane Risacher. Stéphane is a former player and current member of the French Basketball Hall of Fame. However, it's curious to see a player considered a defensive prospect not have elite athleticism. But Risacher is special for several reasons. The first is his ability to defend players with very diverse profiles. At 6'9", the wing has shown an enormous ability to defend perimeter players as well as power forwards. His lateral speed and IQ have allowed him to be the primary defender for some of the best players in the French league, regardless of position. Despite not being a great rebounder on offense or defense, his instincts have allowed him to be a good threat in the passing lanes. During this past season, Risacher has doubled his average in steals per game, going from 0.5 to 0.9 per night. In addition, his improvement in rim protection has allowed him to average 0.3 blocks per game, which, given the few minutes he played and the differences between US ball and overseas ball, could be a factor at the NBA level.
Eyes on Mike on defense. Great defense from Bourg-en-Bresse. Here's Risacher taking it all the way to the hoop and laying it up left.
Now that the NBA is in the pace and space era, every coach in the league is looking for those versatile defenders who can switch on virtually any screen. Modern offenses often try to exploit certain mismatches with the talent of their stars, and players like Zaccharie make this mission really complicated. When a 6'9" player can defend guards with ease, this defensive disadvantage becomes an offensive advantage that the forward can exploit. Although Risacher is considered a primarily defensive prospect, no player would be drafted at such a high position if scouts didn't see potential on offense as well. Zaccharie is arguably a profile that could be categorized as a 3 and D, with his three-point shot being the biggest offensive threat in his game. However, the wing has shown potential to be a player with much greater depth and size. Risacher is a great catch-and-shoot player. He has good form and can execute at good speed, and his stroke is completely polished. He has good shooting habits and is a great student of the game. In fact, he's capable of throwing catch and shoot even on the receiving end of bad passes. However, he's shown qualities that make him a much more dangerous player. What stands out the most is his ball handling. Zaccharie has an extraordinary ability to put the ball on the floor, and his handles look like those of an elite perimeter player. He has confidence in his handles and can use it to get to the paint in favorable situations. Without having the most explosive first step, Risacher has good top-end speed that, coupled with his frame, he can use to finish close to the rim and away from his defenders. In addition, his technical ability allows him to execute different tricks when finishing. But most importantly, he can take advantage of these assets to create his shot with solvency.
Foul drawn. Do we get to see his little pump fake? There we go, we do.
Mike, mid-range, open three, Risacher.
His sidestep is very dangerous. He can shoot off the dribble from the perimeter, a necessary attribute to become a good scorer in the NBA. He knows how to plant his feet and has very good balance, but he's also a great off-ball player as well. He's capable of making cuts and finishing at the rim, and he knows how to balance the offense with his presence on the weak side. Although his playmaking has a lot of potential, he's still a work in progress. If he can improve in this area, he could become one of the most versatile profiles in the draft. And it's not that this ability doesn't exist. It's arguably yet to be developed. In his last season playing in France's U21 league, Risacher averaged 4.4 assists per game in 31 minutes of play. Considering the criteria for achieving an assist in Europe is much more restrictive, we can assume that this aspect of his game could explode upon his arrival in the US. Now, what NBA team could use such a player? Well, the truth is that there are many candidates. Zaccharie could become an elite role player in a very short time in the NBA, and most likely his floor won't be too slow. His characteristics make him a perfect secondary player to go with almost any offensive system. Detroit, Charlotte, San Antonio, or Toronto, teams destined to take the top spots in the draft after the lottery, seem like perfect fits for his playstyle. Maybe the player doesn't fit so well in Portland schemes because of Jeremy Grant's presence, or in the Wizards because of Deni Avdija, but there's no doubt that his style will be compatible with almost any team and playstyle. Even if he manages to translate his current skills to the NBA, it's probably his playmaking ability that will mark his ceiling. In modern basketball, wings are players who are often able to run the offense in different contexts, and Risacher has all the qualities to become a player capable of progressing in this aspect. His skill set may not be like that of a player you expect to draft in the top 3, but his versatility and potential could make teams regret their decision if they decide to pass on him on draft night.